Hi guys, hope you're doing well. It's Karina from Ragebreed, and this is another episode of Ragebreed Mind, Body and Spirit. So today I'm going to answer a few questions because a few people were asking about toxic friendships, toxic relationships, that kind of thing, and how to remove them without getting backlash. Okay, so the truth is, when you remove someone from your life, you are always going to get some kind of backlash. Now, sometimes they don't care enough and it's fine, but other people might take it very, very personally. Okay. Um, so there's two ways you can do it. You can either unfollow them on social media, or you can just, unfriend them and stuff. Or there's a third option. You can try and repair the friendship or relationship. So a couple of people said, is there a way that you can repair sort of like a broken relationship kind of thing, whether it's a friendship or a toxic situation? Now, there are many theories on this because there's some people that believe that you just can't, it's not your responsibility to fix someone, and if they're treating you badly, cut off. Okay. And in the past, there's been people where there was a repetition of treating me badly, which is why I cut off from them, if that makes sense. And it also depends on a number of factors, like how much do they mean to you, and is it worth working on in order to, resolve that bond, if that makes sense. However, now, when I talk about toxic people, I don't talk about people that are genuinely have conditions and they're unwell and things like that, and I think a lot of people need to understand that sometimes people behave the way that they do is because of an underlying mental health condition, for example. So you couldn't judge them on the same merit as someone who's completely, healthy emotionally. So if someone's just generally being an arsehole to you when they're mentally healthy, it's because they're generally an arsehole, if that makes sense. If someone has conditions and things like that, traumas, that type of thing, you can try to get to a point where you communicate effectively to make the other person understand that their behavior and their reactions is causing X and Y, in you. Okay, so you can actually speak to them and say, look, because of this treatment and because of your reactions or the way you're treating me, it's unacceptable because you're treating me as if I don't matter and my opinions don't matter, blah, 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 whatever the situation is, for example. And it's really important to voice that. And it's about really saying to yourself that, right, what is the most important thing right now for me and for the other person? And if you can see that there's a genuinely difficult situation this person is battling, and a most common problem is usually paranoia, and especially in relationships, there is this, when you've been hurt before in relationships, and they've really, really killed that trust in you with the people, that can be a very hard thing to recover from. So you do need a certain amount of patience with that person because it's not easy for them to trust. And if you've shown signs of abusing that trust, then they will most likely get triggered and then sabotage. And then, this is the kind of thing that happens. Okay, so the way to try and resolve it is to basically work with that person if you're in a relationship with them and say, okay, so when you see X person talking to me and is being flirty or whatever, and I'm just saying thank you, for example, then you aren't doing anything wrong. You're accepting a compliment, but you're not reciprocating any sexual stuff, you are literally just saying to that person, thank you for your compliment. And especially if you're someone who does get a lot of attention online, it's bound to happen. And since the world of social media, it's very easy for people to just, they've got more choice, haven't they? It's not like what it was before. You get into a relationship and you never had the sort of threat of outsiders coming in, and and it is hard, for people who do suffer with paranoia, because they're going to think, oh, maybe she's with this person and this person, and especially if you've got good friendships with men and women, it can be hard for someone to trust you. So you need to understand that sometimes it does take a bit of work in some relationships. Now, I've done like a course on relationship, building. I'm a group counsellor for relationship workshops. And one of the things that comes, very evident in most relationships is trust. Trust is the fundamental thing which helps a bond succeed or it fails, okay? The other thing that sometimes makes a bond fail is the lack of communication, the lack of identifying what their needs and wants are within the others, within both people. So it's about listening to each other and saying, this is what I need from you, because at the end of the day, yes, relationships is about, giving to the other person, okay? But it's also about receiving. So you have to be able to communicate the things that you want to each other and come to some kind of negotiation, compromise, where it's not just either one doing whatever he or she wants to do and the other just doing what he and she wants to do, and it's conflicting, and that friction is causing resentment to build, for example. So it's about reassurance as well. Like, are you reassuring your partner that you want her, that you love her, and you have all these beautiful thoughts about this person, and are you actively making her feel special, publicly and privately? Because one of the red flags that I always have is that if a guy doesn't want to introduce you to his friends or his family, or wants to keep you a secret, that's a big red flag, okay? But it could also be because he's trying to build up trust with you first to figure out whether he wants to pursue it to that next level. And these things take time, but you have to also put a time limit on it, because it could also be a person who wants to play the field and you're just one of many. So it is really about the individual situation and making sure that you are communicating in a way whereby both understand each other, and is that person going to keep sabotaging your relationship, or is that person willing to take a risk and trust you and build up a bond which is going to be right for both parties? Okay, so, and what you need in place is, whenever you get the fear, I call it, that the other person's seeing someone else or with someone else or cheating, or all that kind of thing, and it happens to all of us. I mean, you may have seen this video recently on Facebook where the girl has a dream and then she goes to her husband and she's crying and she's like, oh, she acted as if he's cheated on her. But some dreams, I'll be honest with you, some of my dreams have actually happened and they have become true. Some are just nonsense. So it's understanding the difference between, a very irrational fear, or maybe it is rational because you've been hurt by that person before, but it's your subconscious saying, I haven't dealt with this problem yet and I need to find some closure with it. But you can only do that if that person is not the same person in the dream, if that makes sense. So you have to establish what your boundaries are and what you expect from the bond. That's really, really important. And if that person wants to commit to you and you want to commit to him, that's brilliant. That means that you're ready to take the steps to work on the relationship, for it to go forward. So what are the things that can go wrong in a relationship? Now, in the past, Okay, so I've had situations where some of my female friends have tried it on with past loves, okay? They knew how I felt about him, they went there anyway. And a lot of women do it for ego reasons. A lot of them do it because they may feel threatened by you and they want to be queen bee, okay? But the guy, if he's not ready to commit to you and he's getting with these girls, the situation will end up being that you'll be outcast from that group of people. And so therefore you should make your friendships, and select them very wisely. So if you have a friend that can't be happy for you when you share good news, that's a jealous friend. This girl's going to fuck you over. If she wants to be queen bee all the time around you, and she doesn't care about how her actions affect you, then that is not a good friend. That's a toxic friend, and I've had a few of them, especially in this rock and metal scene and everything. And it really is a lack of care and respect for the bond that you're currently in, for example. So, it's about having boundaries there in place to say, this is someone I'm seeing. Don't, start advancing yourself on my partner, for example, or the person I'm seeing. It's just basically you're supposed to, if you're a friend, you're supposed to care about that person, and it shouldn't be just about because you want your enjoyment, for example. So that's one of the things. And the second thing is, a lot of bitching happens. So sometimes people are jealous of your bond and they will try and try to make up rubbish about you just so you guys break up. And it's happened to me before, it's happened to a lot of people before. And you've got to really understand that you've got to really analyze the people around you. You've really got to do that. And it's only through being hurt so many times in my life that I've been able to really assess what am I doing that can prevent me from going through the same repetition again. And one of those things was I had to do a cull. I had to do literally a cull of people in my life. And I had to see what their reactions were whenever I said something good or if something positive happened to me. And are they supporting me? Are they lifting me up? Are they happy for me? And if the answer is no, there's a big problem there, because everyone has got their life path they need to attend to, okay? And say if their band had a gig, I'd be there, I'd be supporting them. If it's someone that, I did art for, I would do it for free. I've taken people in because they were homeless. I've done so many nice things for people, okay? And I do that because I want them to rise in life. And that's what a good friend does. They want good things for their friends. They want their friends to feel like they're happy, accomplished, successful, things like that. But some friends are fine with it as long as you don't do better than them. And this is where you get the sabotage, okay? So some friends will just tell you you're not good enough, or try and make you compete with another friend and things like that. And it really is insecurity in them, okay? So when you start seeing that kind of behaviour where they're competing, they're trying to bring you down, and there's this like strange competition, and you're not even competing with them, but they may be, okay? So it's really about having people around you that just don't compete. They're happy in themselves, they're cool with themselves, they're not interested in putting you down. They're just happy-go-lucky people. They're just sort of people that can be inspired by you and will do things in their life to make their life path, right for them. And when you're around people like this, you will find that you will connect on such a great level because everybody is going for their dreams. Everybody's in that state of mind. And it could even just be that you're friends with people who just have a very simple life and they just want to be a mother, or, and there's nothing wrong with that as long as they're not, putting you down, and as long as they're not trying to, make you feel bad about yourself. Okay, really, really important, because these little snidey comments, sometimes you get them from other women. I've even had women who's lied to my face because she was getting with the guy that she knew had feelings for. This is not friendship, okay? And people say, oh, well, it happens. Well, no, it shouldn't happen, because if you care about your friend is supposed to be a safe place, okay? And if, say, for example, you can't help who you love, right? Say if someone had fallen in love with someone who, I don't know, I was with, then I would expect that friend to tell me as well, So say if she told that person, I'd expect her to tell me too, because you can't help who you love. I mean, let's look at Love Actually, you look at those situations. That film is really good to show, the types of different things that happen. But it's like, you have to be in a place where you know your worth and other people know your worth, and collectively you rise together. And that is what healthy bonds are. Not people that are trying to sink your boat or competing with you or trying to bring you down, jealous of you, trying to make out like you don't deserve to do well, or they're hating on you all the time. They get jealous of your successes and the things that happen. This is just, you've got to understand that those kinds of people are not good people. They're not people that will bring you up. They're people that will pull you down. And if they start sinking your boat, you need to really think about, are these the kind of people that you want in your life? Because otherwise you will stay in that rut, the rut of, where you have nothing, you aspire to nothing, you can't, do anything because, you've got no ambition. So even though I'm not at my goal yet, okay, but I'm taking steps in place in order for me to get there. Does that make sense? So people alongside me are taking steps to get to their goal. And because you have people like that in your life, you bounce off each other. And some people are saying, Karina, it's lovely to see the people on your page because they're just so supportive and so loving and caring. I was like, well, that's what Ragebreed is about. It's about family. It's about caring about each other, because what is there in life if there is no love? What is there in life if there's no care? It's just people fucking each other over all the time, and hurting and being in pain and suffering. Like, that's not what life's about. Life is about having the right people in your life, having the right love in your life, and building a dream and following your life path and living life with passion. And of course, there are going to be bumps along the way. Nothing's ever perfect or smooth sailing, but you deal with those as and when you get to those points, if that makes sense. Really important, because, a lot of my friends say to me, oh, but what if it goes wrong? What if something goes wrong? It's like, well, tackle it when that happens. You can't live in fear of something going wrong, because at some point something will go wrong. It's part of life. Failure is a part of life. But what can you learn from it, and what can you do better next time? It's learning about each other as people, as friends, even in relationships. How can you better that bond, and that's what you learn. You learn about your own boundaries and you learn about their boundaries. And sometimes you can go overly looking at helping them. And I do tend to do that because I'm a life coach. I can see the problem, I can see the issue, and I want to help. But it has to be, the other person has to be like, I want to receive that help. I need your help, and if you can give me that help, then I will help. I will listen to what you have to say. And that's when it's good. It's not good if, say, you're giving advice and that person is just like, no, fuck off, I don't want to know. Then you have to take a step back and think, is this worth my effort and time? So it's really about communication, knowing what the boundaries are within each other. And if you do want to have a successful bond, it's about proper communication. It's about understanding each other and where you're at, and making plans accordingly, and finding out ways to help each other through difficult periods in your life. Another thing was mentioned to me is, what if the person is autistic and unable to have long-term relationships. Well, in all honesty, I've seen people who are autistic have very long relationships, actually. It just depends on where the spectrum that you are on. And, some people say that, they just prefer to have sort of casual things because they always say the wrong thing, or, their partner doesn't understand, maybe they ADHD, or, that kind of thing. And I get it. And this is why I put up the other day on my page about there's nothing wrong with having casual bonds, because I think it does apply with some people that they don't have that kind of commitment within them to be able to, just be completely with that one person. But some people, it does work. So you have to remember that, it is okay. But one of the main things that I would probably say is, read about your condition, figure out what it is actually that you want from life. So if it is just casual bonds that you want, then communicate that with anyone who you're seeing, because what can tend to happen is that you may say to someone, I feel connected with you or whatever. But then say if someone else comes along and then all of a sudden you dump that other person to be with that person, and then this chain reaction keeps happening, then you need to sort of understand that that's the problem, okay? You can't just drop people just because someone better comes along. And a lot of people who they class as players do this. So what you have to do is be open and honest with the person when you meet them, and say, I just want casual bonds with certain people, and that's all I want. I'm not after anything emotional. I'm not after anything this. It really is about clear communication, and being completely, transparent about what it is you want. But sometimes, and it does happen, sometimes, people do want to have that long-term relationship and they don't realize that they want it. It's just that they've been used to a certain way for a long time, but they've never experienced love and, those kind of things. And you tend to find that people that have never felt loved in their life usually sabotage the bonds that that they're experiencing, because it's so overwhelming for them, because they've never experienced it before. It's too much. It's like, whoa, this is really intense, but then they miss it when it's gone. So it's kind of like, oh God, where does the land lie? So it is really about communication with that person, and just making sure that they know that they're loved and they're appreciated, but also giving them enough space as well to do their own thing. By that, I don't mean getting rid of the girls if you've discussed that you both want monogamous. Because I think the thing is, and this is another thing that does come up quite frequently. A lot of women say to me, Karina, I've been in this bond with this guy for ages, okay? It's been like months and months and months on end. He doesn't commit to me, but he just kind of leads me on. But then I found out he's with other women as well, okay? And like, what should I do about it? Because I really want him to commit to me, but he is, playing around with other women and stuff. So first of all, you need to have a conversation with that person and say, this is what I want. I really want us to now to get to that second stage, but I feel like you are still in that non-committed stage, okay? So you have to make a decision whether this person is going to be right for you if they're going to keep getting with other women, okay? Now, if this person gets upset when you move on and you've made the decision to move on, for example, then he hasn't got a right to give you any abuse because you've decided to move on because he couldn't commit. So can you see where I'm saying here? Like, I've been in situations in the past before whereby the guy just kind of saw lots of different women, but if I tried to move on, I was punished. And that's not a healthy thing, okay? And I only realized that when I started to see a therapist. because I felt really guilty that I'd hurt him and everything. But then she said to me quite simply was, actually, you asked him to have a relationship and he turned you down and he told you to move on and even suggested people to go with. So you did exactly that. And that is what a healthy person would do, because you accepted his decision, even though you were in love with him, but you tried to move on by dating. Okay. And then when you did, it broke his heart. And so then what that tells you is that that person is not being honest with you about how he really feels. Okay. So in that situation, like, the best thing that you can do with that is you have to make sure that you have a conversation with this person and tell them to be truthful to you. You've got to do that, because there can be a number of reasons why someone chooses not to be with you, but the heart wants what it wants. Does that make sense? So logically it could be a number of reasons, but the heart wants what it wants. So it hurts that person if you've moved on, but at the same time they shouldn't be punishing you, because they need to be 100%. Because say, for example, if he said at that point in time, I'm not ready to settle down, but I have feelings for you, okay? Maybe it might have changed things a little bit. Maybe I would have said, okay, well, how long do you need? But if it was like years and years and years, then I would have been like, well, no, that doesn't work for me. But say if it had been, I just need a few months to, just kind of experiment and do my thing and be free for a while, and I'd been like, cool. But a lot of the time that doesn't happen. And so, you've got to always remember that the person that, say, you're in love with or loves you back, there has to be truthful communication at the base level, because otherwise you're going to get this kind of like, oh, well, I wanted to test you, and you start having this game thing happening, and it's not healthy. Just be direct, because if someone says no to you, what's that person going to do? They're going to cry their eyes out, be heartbroken, and then they're going to think, right, what's right for me? They'll probably go to their friends and say, what should I do? He said no, go and have fun. Do you see where I'm coming from? So then that person will be like, fine, I accept it. I'm going to go and have fun. And, it's not going to be an emotional thing with anyone. I'll probably just date and stuff and have casual buns until I feel ready again to try again with someone else. Okay, so that's what usually happens after you've gone through a horrible breakup with someone, or you've gone through heartbreak. But then if that person starts getting hurt when you start getting with other people, that there's a problem there, because that means that there were feelings but he hadn't communicated them. And then, you get this kind of like massive, like this huge war thing going on. This is what happened with me. So I didn't know I was doing anything wrong, because I thought I was just moving on. But yeah, this person was still kind of leading me on and coming back. So it was like hot and cold all the time. It was like he comes back and then and then he didn't know what he wanted, and it's like hot and cold and we're not sure where to go. And that's a problem, because then you have a situation where someone can't make up their mind and you're not getting the relationship that you want. You could have been in a relationship with someone who was going to give you everything that you need, but your heart's tied with that person, if that makes sense to you. So again, you have to make your boundaries clear and say, this is what I want, what do you want? And if the person doesn't know what they want, you've got to give them a time period to make a decision. And you've got to basically say, look, this is what I want, this is what I deserve, because I don't deserve to be treated like someone that you just come back and forth to. And a lot of people do it because, again, trust issues. There's been sabotage, self-sabotage, problems, with trusting someone because of previous traumas. So that has a lot to play in it as well. Now, say you've been in a very traumatic relationship in the past. So, for example, you've undergone violence, emotional and physical abuse, for example. This I would recommend you get sorted as soon as possible. So speak to a counsellor, speak to a therapist. I would recommend, if you've been on any kind of violence, sexual abuse, or anything like that, go to UAVA if you're living in the UK. Absolutely fantastic support. And they put me in touch with Headstrong Wellbeing, who are very good because they work with, specifically for women who have been abused and, hurt and everything. And it was through them, I was able to get over that certain part of my life. And don't get me wrong, sometimes a wound now and again reopens, and there can be certain triggers, but it's not as bad as what it was. And what you tend to find is when you've been in a relationship like that, your voice isn't heard, that your feelings don't matter because that person controls everything about you. So you're not allowed to have a say, you're not allowed to listen to certain songs, or it's all about control. And this is where you have to really stand your ground and say to yourself that I'm not prepared to be controlled anymore. I'm not prepared to be with a man who does not respect my feelings, needs and wants. Really important, because if that person is just doing what they want to do but then don't allow you to do the things that you want to do, there's an imbalance there, and that's not how a healthy relationship functions. Okay, so what I would say is you need to have people in your life and relationships in your life where you're negotiating the balance of power. So what you're saying to that person is, okay, I'm happy for you to do this. And that person should say, I'm happy for you to do this. And you negotiate and you communicate your boundaries, what's acceptable, what isn't acceptable. Don't just get mad and punish, because that's what happens sometimes. You start firing at each other, and we all do it, we've all been there. But actually what you need to be doing is looking back and thinking, okay, how does my behavior affect you, and vice versa, and how can we get it to a point whereby both are happy. Okay, now there's certain things that you won't be able to help, like external factors like other people coming onto you and stuff, but you have total control on whether you say yes or no to that person. And so the most successful monogamous relationships are ones whereby self-control is no issue. It's like, well, I'm quite happy with my partner, and I'm doing it because of respect for myself and respect for my partner. And also, I want to protect her heart or his heart and not break it. And that's what a successful monogamous relationship looks like, and also building each other up. But that doesn't mean to say, say if that person say something that they feel that you could better yourself in, that's fair enough as well. Like, say if someone has is not being very healthy or whatever, you can say to that person, it would, for you, I love you very much, so I want you to take care of yourself, for yourself, but also for me, and vice versa. And that's watering each other to grow, to become best versions of self. Okay, now sometimes it can come across as very critical, and it can hurt because you feel like you've probably battled like low worth issues. People have drilled it in your brain, for you to be perfect you have to be this, this and this. Okay, so what you have to also realize is that there is a certain amount of tact that goes along with it. So for example, if like you are okay, I'll give you an example. Even my situation, I've got PCOS, and it's a very difficult condition to live with. It's very, very hard emotionally, physically, and losing weight is very difficult for me. It's just because of my hormonal imbalances, and producing too much cortisol because of stress as well. So my hormones aren't always balanced, which is why I meditate so much, because it kind of brings me into a homeostasis. Plus I do a lot of exercise and yoga, okay, and eating right and all those things. So as long as you're looking after yourself in the way that you can, your body is also genetically wired up a certain way. So for someone like myself, I look like kind of like a warrior woman, I'm not a very tiny woman, if that makes sense. Okay, so it would be ridiculous for someone to say, I want you to be a size 0 if you are naturally, your bones are certainly, not going to take you to that place. But you can also be the best version of yourself, and you can also exercise and diet and look after yourself in that way. And that's part of self-care. That's saying I respect my body, I respect my mind, spirit. Removing toxic people from your life is another huge part of self-care. And making sure that you've got people that pick you up, but are also tactful enough to say things to you, in a way that's tactful, if that makes sense. Because it's not right to just go to somebody and just, be just very nasty and cruel about something that they're not happy with. So it's about learning to speak to each other with love. And I spoke to a couple once, and they were saying, it really annoys me because he's always putting me down, he's always telling me this, so then I don't feel attractive, and so then I don't want to sleep with him, and then he's moaning that I'm not sleeping with him. And obviously the reason is, if you keep putting your partner down about all their faults and flaws and things like that, there is an other side to this whereby that's not good. You've got to be able to, show love towards your partner if they're doing things for you, and they need to be, making sure that you are showing love and affection to each other, but also saying things in a loving way, because that's what we don't do. And a lot of people have been brought up in this sort of sense whereby just being very nasty and cruel, and it's not good for your subconscious brain to be taking all that information in, because then no, you're not going to be receptive of physical affection if someone is making you feel emotionally bad about yourself, or about what you look like, for example. It's not good, and if there are things that you need to be working on, then rather than saying that you're this, you're that, why don't you suggest going to the gym together as a date, or doing swimming or something like that? There's ways that you can kind of, say, what, I really want us to be healthier, I really want us to get to that point of where we're on top of the world, and we're good role models, and we can do this. And that's how you do it, and I think for me as well, personally, I've got targets that I want to meet. There's certain targets, that I have met. I've gone from a size 24, 26, 28 to, I've gone down a few sizes. I would say I'm probably about an average of a 16 up to, I probably have some which are in the 18s, but 14, 16, 18 on my dress sizes, depending on the make and the material, because obviously that always changes with whatever brand that you take. But that's me. I'm an average, I am a bigger curvy woman, but I'm not a size 6 or a size 0. And I'll be honest with you guys, I don't really want to be that skinny. I quite like having a bit of something to me, but I do want to lose some weight, so that is something that I am looking at doing, and I am getting better and better with it. It's just taking me longer because of my conditions. And also some of the medication that I'm on as well. So you have to be very sort of careful about how you treat someone, and you've got to be, honest and upfront, but at the same time use tact. In order for successful relationships to work, it's about respecting your partner. I can't say this enough. If you're the kind of person that believes that you need to be on top and your partner just needs to do stuff for you, there's a very big problem there. Okay, so it's got to be an equal balance. So another question was asked to me is, how do I bring, the spicy sex life back into my life? Well, you've got to be able to engage with each other emotionally first to feel a safe space for each other. Okay, the reason why a lot of sexual stuff doesn't work in relationships and it starts staggering is because there might be some emotional issue within the relationship. And you have to understand that in order for a good relationship to truly work is really about communication. So how are you speaking to your partner? How are you, making that person feel special? And if you're sort of hiding away the relationship, that's not healthy either. So there has to be a point where you've got to say, well, I'm proud of my partner. I show my partner off. I'm happy to announce how I feel about my partner. I've got no issues about what she looks like or what other people think, and vice versa. This is very, very important. And if you're not gaining that, then obviously there's going to be an issue with that person being able to show their love for you. And repeatedly amount of times there's been situations whereby girls have been trapped in these sort of relationships, and I myself have been in situations like this. And you have to be able to say to that person at some point and say, look, this is what I want, and you have to make a decision. And if that person doesn't make that decision and doesn't want to announce what you have publicly, for example, then how on earth are you going to be able to be intimate with each other, emotionally, physically, and spiritually? So it's about respect. It's about saying to your partner that, I'm in love with you and I'm not afraid to show it. I love you. I don't care what people think. um and that's how to do it. And if you can't do it, then let your partner know that you're too afraid of what other people think, or whatever the reason is. But don't need someone on and have your cake and eat it, and then expect that partner to be sexual with you if you're not, basically doing the things that a relationship someone in a relationship should be doing. So the other thing is, say if you're a couple who've been together for a very long time, you've moved in with each other and it's going a bit stale, do date nights. I mean, like, when I was married for like that 10 years, we or still dated. We used to go for weekends away. We used to do loads of different things. Even Valentine's Day was extra special. We used to have nights in, cuddled up on the sofa and watch, a glass of wine, take out, watching movies. We would go to restaurants, we'd go cinema. We would do, weekends away. These are the things that make life, worth living. Going on holidays, these are true adventures. Find a hobby that you can do with your partner. And you'll find that when you start making an effort within that relationship to do things together and have fun together, the sexual side of things will naturally come. It's just that you have to be able to create environments whereby they feel safe, they feel wanted, they feel adored. What a lot of guys forget to do is to actually give their partner an emotional response to make them feel adored. So it's really important that you do put work into that, and also go on those dates, and so that partner feels, I feel special, I want to give my love to you, I want to show you how I feel. If someone doesn't make you feel like you're worth anything, then how can you open up in a sexual way to them when they're not showing you any kind of emotional worth? See, worth is a very important thing in a relationship. Both people need to feel worth, okay? And if you were a person that has cheated, and this is something that happens quite a lot in relationships, unfortunately, you have to be able to rebuild that trust. But if you're the sort of person that keeps breaking that trust, then how are you going to be able to make that partner feel safe in order for them to open up to you physically? So these are the things you have to think about, because you can, in any relationship, anything is fixable. But the problem with it is that if you keep forgiving over and over again and the person keeps abusing you over and over again by cheating by other people, then what does that tell you? That tells you that that person has not got respect for your relationship or your heart. If someone has cheated and they're genuinely sorry, and they really feel bad about what they've done, then maybe, you can come back from that, but then they need to earn your respect and trust. So that's what it's about. But if they continuously keep dropping you for any other person that comes along, then there's a problem, So, but it's also important to be very transparent with your partner as well. So, I mean, for example, I am brutally honest. If I'm in any kind of relationship, if someone comes onto me, it's screenshotted, sent to them so they know, and to show them my response. And that's to give them reassurance to say, look, yes, someone has come onto me, but I'm not interested. And I only do that because I want to gain their trust. And that's really, really important. I don't want, I would hate for anyone who I was with to hide a relationship from me, for example. And that has happened before. And that's why cheating hurts so much, because it really is a betrayal of trust. It's a betrayal of your heart. And that is what is so wrong. And it's not love that does this. People say, oh, I don't ever want to be in love again because it hurts too much. It doesn't hurt. Betrayal hurts. Deception hurts. Cheating hurts. Lies hurt. Those are the things that hurt. Love heals things. Love makes everything better. But you have to also understand that you also have to have that self-respect as well, to say if someone is continuously hurting you, putting you down, cheating on you, not making you feel validated in the relationship, there has to be a point where you've got to say, well, you know what, I'm worth better than this. And it really does take a long time for people who have been put down for such a long amount of time that their worth means nothing, because all their life they've just been giving to everybody and not thinking about what their needs are in the relationship. And it really is about both people speaking to each other with love and kindness and meeting each other's needs. And it's really important that if you want a loving bond, you've got to treat your partner with respect and love and show that affection to them, give that affection to them, and not be so cold. Very, very important. It doesn't mean to say you have to be over the top as well, because like constantly at them all the time and going overboard. No, it's having a healthy in between. Like I do my work all day or whatever, and then I send an email or a few emails towards the end of the night or whatever, or whenever, sometimes a couple in the morning. But it's because I've been in a situation where I've been married. So I've been married before. I'm used to everyday communication. Even in the second relationship I was in, I was used to everyday, communication. And when you're building up a bond of trust and that person needs to know certain things, then I do make sure that I, communicate, properly. And also, I want to talk about this as well. Negative emotions are okay. Okay. A lot of people are like, oh no, you shouldn't be negative all the time. You know what? Sometimes arguments are healthy because they teach you barriers of what's right for you and what's not right for you. So if someone's cheated, yeah, you can shout at them. You can say, how dare you do this to me, because you're telling that person it's not okay to treat you like that. And you can calm down afterwards and everything, but I'm not saying that you should always shout at each other. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is it's okay if sometimes, you're angry, but just do not, hurt each other. It's about having that healthy balance and, calming down and then coming back to the relationship in a better state of mind. But as I say, do not keep accepting abusive treatment. If the person is repeating abusive treatment, cut off, find someone who's going to make it better. And by that I mean, if you have undergone like abusive treatment, then do go and find someone that will help you through it. So whether that's a friend, whether that's a counsellor, do heal before you decide to move on. Very, very important. Now, it's really important that people believe what you say, and sometimes in relationships, even if you're telling the truth, the other person may believe that you're lying, and that's a very difficult relationship to have. But it can get through things as long as you communicate properly. You make sure that you're reassuring that person over and over again, and always keep evidence of stuff. I always keep evidence and stuff like that. But look, at the end of the day, what your threshold is, okay? So if you stay in something that's difficult, that's fair enough, because if you feel like you have the strength to help that person come out of that and build that trust, and it become loving, and you start building up that trust because you're showing them evidence, because you're putting that time into building that relationship, it might end up paying off, okay? And sometimes it may not. It just depends on the other person and how they receive what energy you're giving them. And if they're receiving it with love and acceptance, and you're both giving that beautiful energy back to each other, then it has a chance of survival. Even though you may have traumas, maybe you have issues with trust, but it can work as long as you're honest and you're communicating. Don't just think these paranoid thoughts and not communicate with your partner, because it could be just a case of whereby you're just getting fear-based driven thoughts because of previous experiences. So communication is such a massive thing. It's huge, so do make sure you communicate if you ever get the fear, I call it. And I've always also said, have code words. If there's something that you're really afraid of and you're in that state of mind, then send a code word to them, and then they know that you're in that state of mind. And then what I would then say is, take a deep breath, literally take a deep breath, and then put some, whether it's a voice or whether it's through a message or text, just put what your fears are. And it might get really frustrating for the other person, because they're like, how can you not trust me by now? I've shown you that I love you and I care for you and all these, so why is this still an issue? But you have to accept that healing takes a long time, okay? And it's okay for it to take a while. So the only thing is what I would say is, stick with it if you feel that person genuinely loves you and cares about you and is just making fear-based reactions. But please do try and work through these things with the mindset to resolve, not punish. It's not about punishing, it's about resolving and finding out what you can do to try and lessen that kind of stress, if that makes sense. Because fear-based thoughts, that person can't help it because they've had previous damage before. Okay, so say for example, like I've been in an abusive relationship before, so something might trigger me and it might bring up all those feelings of pain and panic and you're going to hurt me. So and it happens, and it will happen in probably every relationship. So sometimes it is about negotiation, and it is about finding a plan of what to do when that happens. And that's what you should be striving to do. It's like I've talked to couples where they're like, I don't know what to do when someone comments on my partner's photo, because I feel pissed off with them. But then I think, it's okay. And you battle with it, because when you love someone, you do, that bond has become like an attachment. So you're afraid of that attachment breaking, or that person might be wanting to be with someone else, or and it's so easily, you look at the world of social media, there's so many people around, there's always people giving me these comments or messages telling me how they feel and stuff. But and I don't mean that in a sort of like, I'm so amazing, because I really don't think that I'm all that. I just believe like I'm everybody else, But it is really a case of where you've got to just reassure your partner that there's nothing going on, and you are saying the appropriate things to those people and saying, I'm not interested in a relationship, or you're calling them friend, you're accepting the compliment, but you're not, saying I want to do this to you and be sexual and all that kind of thing. Now say if you're in a polyamorous relationship or something and both have negotiated those things, then that's fine, because it's kind of more like, well, there's no issue with that happening, if that makes sense, because you're both free to do what you want. But that can be very difficult for people who are very they are in love with each other, if that makes sense, and they don't want anyone to touch their other half because you've made a commitment to each other. Do you see my point? And so yeah, that's where it comes down to at the end of the day, but just make sure that if you are in a relationship, emotionally you're giving them love, physically you're giving them love, and spiritually you're giving them love. They need all three things. They need to feel emotionally secure with you. They need to feel so, and for that to happen is where the sexual stuff comes in, because that becomes a natural part of what you want to give, because you're emotionally connected, and then your body wants, it feels like it wants to connect in that way, in a sexual way. And then spiritually, because you're connected on that level, which is such a huge level, whereby sometimes you can telepathically sort of understand each other without saying a word. It's like when someone just gives a look in the room and you just know what they're thinking. Sometimes bonds can be that strong. And I'm a very spiritual person, and I know plenty of clairvoyants and people like that, and so I do believe that you can understand where someone is at just through certain mediums. So one of the things I will say to you guys is, if you are in a relationship, look after each other, help each other grow. If there are things you need to discuss which are negative, be tactful about it, and life's too short. Have fun, go out there, go on dates, do the things that you love to do, set aside budgets for things like that, and just enjoy yourself, because honestly, life is so cruel and crap sometimes. You just need to make good memories with people that care about you, and that involves your friends, your family, your loved ones, and doing the things that you truly cherish and enjoy in life. Have a life path that you really enjoy doing. That's what it's all about, and being with someone that you truly, genuinely love, that gives you that love back, and it's reciprocated the same way. So that's what's really important, and having that time as well to work on self as well. So learning how to love yourself, learning how to get rid of certain negative behaviors that you're doing. Maybe you have something that you're not happy with, or like you have an addiction problem or whatever. Focus on self, do some meditation, put focus on exercise, meditation, mind, body and spirit. You'll soon find that you're in a better space, and you won't accept, negative treatment and stuff. But at the same time, like I say, if your partner is going through, some PTSD or traumas and things like that, stick with it, help them through it, and hopefully you'll get to a better point in life together and stronger. And that's what I will say. So guys, thank you so much for listening to this. Hope it was very insightful, and I hope I've answered some of your questions. But yeah, like I say, we've got Ragebreed Mind, Body and Spirit on Ragebreed TV, we've got it on our radio, we've got it now on, through our pages and groups. And there's a lot of people that have been saying how much they love what we do. So thank you so much for your feedback. It really does mean the world to myself and the team. Thank you so much. And remember, keep it metal and keep it Ragebreed.